Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 618 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Colin Carr. And if you want to hear a conversation about creating fairness in chiropractic real estate, stay tuned for the whole episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today I have CEO Colin Carr of CARR. I'm really excited for this episode. We're going to dive right into some really cool topics. Most importantly, is we're going to educate everybody watching this about capitalizing and the transaction. It's a win or it's a lose, and we're going to discuss how that looks. We always want to make sure that people that watch the show understand that Colin is going to help you maximize your profitability through your real estate. So Colin is not a chiropractor, but he's worked with thousands of people in the health and wellness space and helping them with their transactions of their real estate. Most importantly, I think negotiating leases and making sure that people are in good situations in their work environments and workspaces, and they can either stay there or move to the next place. And they can scale and grow from that point forward. But before we jump into this episode, which is 618 of the Chiro Hustle podcast, I want to let you know our big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, freedom of speech is first and foremost. We know what it's like to be traffic throttled and shadow banned. We'd never do that to you or anyone else. We know what it's like to be censored. We'd never do that to you or anyone else. So we do believe in freedom of speech. We also believe in support medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things, but if you want to understand that on a deeper level, find yourself a chiropractor, and they're going to be able to help guide you through any decisions you have with your children or your loved ones when it comes to health freedom and medical freedom. We'll get a bit more philosophical on the introduction. We do believe in BJ Palmer's Sacred Trust. We do support and protect that. If you guys want to know more about that, check out our show notes and check out BJ Palmer's Last Words. You're going to learn more about chiropractic than you ever did before that. I guarantee you. I promise you that. And a bit more philosophical before we get into Colin's story. We do support subluxation-based chiropractic, and we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. I know that's a lot to be said, but if nobody listens to this whole episode and they just heard that, I'd be quite satisfied with that. But I think they're going to listen to this and they're going to gain a lot of value from you today, Colin Carr. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a quite the introduction to what we do, but I do think that if we stand for nothing, we fall for anything. And anybody that listens to our show knows that we've created a hard line in the concrete, and we're not going to back down. And I think that that's an important part, specifically after the past 4 years of what we've seen happening. We're on our pre-interview chat, we were talking like up is down, down is up, and there's a lot of confusion out there. So I hope to be able to give people some takeaways today. So get your pen and paper out, everybody, and start taking some notes, because I think Colin's going to say some things that will help you with your business modeling and making sure that you're doing the right things to build a legacy for yourself for the on-ramp and off-ramp of your future. So Colin, tell us about this journey. How did you get into the space you're in today?
Yeah, well, it has been a journey. I'll try to give the short version. I started managing apartment complexes when I was 19. I did not have a clear direction as far as higher education and what I wanted to study. So I just started working right away. I met a gentleman that owned about a dozen apartment complexes, and he was gracious enough to let me literally just follow him around for months. Like I just show up at his house or like just ask if I could, shadow him. So I did that for a while. Eventually, started managing a complex for him, and that's how I got into property management. Moved to Colorado when I was 20. Managed a number of buildings here, mid-rise, some high rises. And then I got into brokerage when I was 22, and I started working for a guy that did mostly large national retailers. So Walmart's, Wendy's, Blockbusters, if you remember them, people like that, coffee franchise chains, stuff like that. So I did that. Later started getting more exposed to office, got more exposed to industrial. And I was basically a jack of all trades. If it moved, I chased it. And I would do a 500-foot deal. I'd do a 100,000-foot deal. I would do an auto repair center. I would do a psychiatrist, like anything that I could get my hands on, I would do it. And over a period of time, I started doing more and more healthcare and medical, and I was predominantly on the landlord side. So I was the listing broker, the landlord broker for one of the largest healthcare REITs in the country. So a real estate investment trust. People give them money, they buy real estate, and then they give you profit back, just like you'd give Amazon money, and then they'd give you profit back as they grow. And I had a couple transactions where I was the listing agent for the landlord. Landlord, ultra sophisticated. That is their entire world is negotiating professionally for a living. And I had a number of transactions where I was meeting with the doctors. I had a pharmacy deal, I had a plastic surgery deal, I had an ENT deal. And I remember talking to these doctors saying, have you been to the market? No. Do you have a broker? Am I going to be talking to you directly, or do you have a broker? No, I'm going to do it myself. Why would you move? Well, and they'd say stuff like, well, I don't really want to move, or I can't move, or I don't have the money to move, or I don't have the time to move. And then I'd go back and report all this information to the landlord as far as what they say. And the landlords would just come back and just crush these doctors with way above market or egregious lease rates. They were not giving them the concessions that were competitive. If it would have been a Starbucks or a Chipotle that showed up, the transaction would have been a couple $100,000 different in Chipotle or Starbucks favor or a professional office tenant. And, these landlords were just crushing these doctors. And in, I'd say probably 90% of the scenarios, the doctors didn't know they were being crushed, because the landlords would say stuff like, well, this is a market deal, or nobody gets that, or we don't do these things. Or they'd say these cliches that the doctor would hear and think, oh, I guess that's just kind of how it is. And so long story short, I had a number of transactions where I watched doctors literally overpay by $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 over a 10-year lease. And for me, just the light bulb came on, and I said, look, it's a fair fight. No one forced the doctor to sign a lease. No one forced them to be in their building. But these guys really need an advocate, and they need someone who can help them steward the process properly. Just like a patient says, look, I don't want to pull my own tooth, so they go to an oral surgeon. Or, hey, I know my son can jump on my back, but there's probably a better way to get an adjustment. The doctors needed somebody to help them navigate this real estate process, because there was so much on the line. It's not like they were overpaying by $1,000. Oh, well, over the next 10 years, it's a couple bucks a month. Who cares? These doctors were literally overpaying by $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 a month, and they were missing concessions. And so I just saw an opportunity. For me, I spent a lot of time talking to my wife, praying about it. And we just felt like this was the lane that God was calling us to go in and make a difference in people's lives at a much higher level than we had ever done before. And I would have said prior to this, I would have said, I'm making a difference, but it's hard to feel like you're making a difference in certain companies' lives. Like Walmart's going to get the deal done whether you're there or not. They're big boys. They know how to do it. But when I was working with a bunch of these healthcare providers, I was like, if I'm not the one doing this for them, there's a very high probability that they're going to get hit hard with a $300,000 premium. And there wasn't like 10 people behind me in line waiting to take the deal. Like nobody was there. And so I saw blue ocean. We launched the company in 2009, right after the market had totally corrected and crashed. And we had more success than I can communicate. Over the first 5 years, we did hundreds of transactions up and down the Front Range of Denver in Colorado. And then in 2014, we started going into other markets in other states. And today we are now in all 50 states. We're licensed in all 50 plus DC. We have over 5,500 clients that we're doing work for. Anything with real estate, so leases, lease renewal negotiations, purchases, land deals, development deals, scaling practices from one location to 50 or from 10 to 100 or whatever the desire might be. And anything with healthcare we do, for anything with real estate for healthcare we do. And that's the story.
Well, I think that there's a lot there, and that's one of the cool things about my seat over here is I get a chance to listen, and I get a chance to think about like, hey, what is the market? What do our listeners need? Mm-hmm. And I think our listeners in our network, I have a twofold question for you. I know I didn't prep you for any of this stuff. You got all chiropractic questions and things like that. So coming into somebody that's just about to finish chiropractic college and they don't know anything about business yet, what advice would you give to them about getting into their first deal?
I would say you need to surround yourself with experts in every possible area. And I know that might be cliche, but it's astonishing to me the people that will go and do anything and then just try to take the do-it-yourself approach. And it's different. If you want to paint your bedroom, like have at it. Like go to Lowe's or Home Depot and figure out which brush you want to use. Do you want to roll it? Do you want to brush it? Like that's fine. But when it comes to a transaction that's going to be, eventually you look at the build out, the lease terms, all the operating expenses, the additional money for staff and so forth and marketing, you're entering into a multi-million-dollar transaction over the next 10 to 20 years. And you should treat it that way. You should treat it with respect. So you should get a really good attorney that understands how to set up your business structure. And if you should be an S Corp or an LLC or how you should operate, you should get a really good real estate broker that can help you navigate the process to tell you if you should go into retail or office, if you should lease or purchase, or maybe we lease but we get an option to buy the building, those kind of things. And so you assemble the best team possible. You let them educate you along the way, and you don't have to spend, an extra 3 years getting an MBA in some, generic form of business. You can actually get educated by the most qualified people in every area for architecture. If I want to build out my own chiropractic office, what's the best way to do it? What's the square footage I need? Should it be retail or office? You start to learn these things from the experts, and they help protect you. It's a safeguard on both sides of the road for you, and they'll make you a lot more. They'll save you time. They'll make you more successful. You'll be way more educated and intelligent because of it, and you're going to dramatically increase the likelihood of your success.
So what I'm taking from that answer is the best thing to do is to build out your team. Mm-hmm. So if we could just get a bit more clear on that, you need to make sure you have a good attorney. What type of attorney would they be looking for? You want
a contract and real estate attorney. All right. And so just like in healthcare, you say, well, I'm in healthcare, well, do you adjust people's hips, or do you replace their hips, or do you clean their teeth, or do you test their vision? Like, just because it's an attorney, I mean, you can get into all sorts of super niche areas of law. So you want to find a real estate and contract attorney that can help you with the business entity, the structure, the tax filing structure. And then they're going to help you once you decide to move forward with a lease or a purchase. They're going to make sure that what your real estate broker negotiates for you actually makes it into the lease. And so let me make a quick little point here and try not to get too technical, but provide some pretty good oversight on this. Residential real estate, everyone's using a standard state drafted or state approved form for buying houses. If you're in Colorado, the state mandates you use the specific form for your transaction. In commercial real estate, when you're leasing, there's no standard lease. And so you can get a 40-page lease, an 80-page lease, or literally a 120-page lease. There's no standard. And so there's this idea, again, if you're in real estate, residential, like, well, everyone in the neighborhood probably paid a similar price and everyone's using the same contracts. And in commercial real estate, that's not what's going on. Like, there is no standard price for your space. You could have literally 4 tenants in one building, all in the exact same size space, same quality space. And you could find there's a $3,000 or $4,000 difference in what one's paying per month versus the other. And the difference was how they negotiated it. And so Really good real estate attorney, really good real estate broker. Do you need financing? Who's your lender going to be? Is there lenders that specialize in healthcare that can help you? The answer is absolutely. There's a very big difference between just a traditional business banker and a traditional lender that lends to anything versus the people that understand healthcare, that want healthcare, and are going to do things for a healthcare provider they wouldn't do for a restaurant or an auto repair shop.
So if somebody's looking for this, Colin, if I send them to you, you could fast track them into who to work with?
100%. 100%. I mean, every transaction that we're involved with, we ask the question, who are we going to need on our team? And some transactions, if it's a lease renewal and they don't want to move, or there's no need for even a renovation, like that's one thing. But if it's a new office, we need architect, contractor. We want to talk to the CPA and make sure they are fully educated on what we're doing, because there's so many great forms of tax benefits and breaks in the form of like bonus depreciation. And, how much of the write-off do you want in that first year versus how much can we hold for future years, because you're going to have a greater need for more tax deductions as you get up and running and as your income goes higher. And so a good CPA, who are you going to use for marketing? Like, who's going to get the word out for you? And again, you can make your own website, but there's a better way to do things, which is to hire people that are really qualified, that can help you avoid pitfalls, complications, delays, and they're going to increase your success.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
So,
well, for me, I do like boots on the ground marketing. I go get new patients for chiropractors, and my fees are high. But I always tell them, pay the most and cry once, because if you pay less, you're going to cry multiple times, because you're not working with a professional, and you're going to get let down, and you're going to be disappointed, and things aren't going to go well. But if you bring in somebody that's done 10,000 new patients and has this thing like locked down, just pay the expert and know that it's going to get handled the right way. And I think that goes into the same position for you, is find the experts, create a good relationship with these people, and let that be your runway to your future. And I'll just tell you, Colin, there's a lot of young chiropractors. Like I spend a lot of time in this work, this is my world. And a lot of these young DCs, they're afraid to go open up their own business. They want to go and work for some sweatshop style chiropractic center, where they don't have to be the owner. They can just be the technician. And I just want to give people the confidence out there that they can be their own boss. They can be their own owner. And it is okay to go out there and take the risk to have your own dream. Like, the American dream is still real. Like, you don't have to go be a technician or an operator for someone else and build somebody else's future and legacy and brands. Like, you can do your own thing. And I just want anybody that watches this or listens to this to know that you can anchor yourself into the right group of people to support you to create the dream that you want. You don't have to cash it all in and go work for somebody else as an associate. Even though I think that the associate model is wise and smart for a small snapshot of your lifetime, but don't make it your whole legacy. And I think that that's another thing, working with a pro like me and a pro like you, like, we can guide you into like that season of your life. Like, what do you need? Well, if you need to learn how to adjust really well, go work and get your hands really good and get your technique really strong. And then we can talk about off-ramping you into your own spot, which I talk to so many docs that's where they're at in their world, and they're afraid to take that next step. So having a resource like you and my Rolodex, like, it's going to be a busy future for us.
I agree. No, and I mean, I think, to your point, I think it's a great place to go and figure out, how to run your world the way you want it to run. I mean, if you've just been in college the entire time and you've done a little bit of practicing here and there, that's totally different when you've got to figure out how to make things happen in less time than you actually would like to have. And you've got to get your hands feet up, and you've got to get your communication skills polished, and you've got to figure out how to communicate more effectively what's going on with someone, because you don't have the luxury of spending 30 minutes with them when you've got 5 minutes left to talk to them. And so I think those things are great. And then a lot of times too, we'll tell people, it could be that you're running in 2 lanes for a season. I mean, it could be that you're an associate in a practice, and then you're going to open up your own practice, let's say 30 minutes away, so that you're not doing anything that would violate agreements or contracts, or the trust or respect of the person that's given you that employment. You don't need to take from them to be successful, but you might say, hey, I'm going to do 2 days here, and then I'm going to do 2 days in my own practice. And a lot of the lenders that are out there in the healthcare space, whether you're a chiropractor, a dentist, a veterinarian, they love that. Like, they love the idea of it might be hard for you to have patients from jump 4 or 5 full days a week, but let's put them all on like Monday and Wednesday or Tuesday and Friday, and then go give a couple other days a week to, a great associateship or even a bad associateship. And that's what helps pay the bills while you're getting up and running. And it's like the teeter-totter, as your practice grows, then you start leveling down on the associateship, and eventually you can make the jump. And I think for me personally, that's a great way for people to say, look, if you're nervous to jump out of the plane and pull the parachute right away, this is a great way to ease into it. Again, you still got to give your entire heart to the practice, but you can still keep some income coming in enough to pay your bills, know that your mortgage, your car payment, your family's taken care of, but also make that jump into ownership. So I think that's awesome.
Well, I think associateship could parallel the idea of why they do residency with medical doctors. Is they give a chance to actually go out there and to practice and to do what you need to do to get the competency to be the owner operator. And I think that that's a really good takeaway for people that will listen or watch this. And then I see the other thing happening. There's like 2 more things I want to get to on the next 10 minutes. So if we can just pack 2 more things in. A lot of docs, they get to that spot where they've been practicing for 15 years and they go the reverse commute. Like, they've done private practice and they're ready to just be the technician. They don't want the static and noise of running the business anymore. They just want to be a kept hand, and they want to come back into this model of going in and just being the adjusting doc. So is that something that you could help facilitate too?
Yeah. I mean, so if they want to do that for a good reason, and they want to transition out, I mean, we work on a lot of transitions as far as helping, get the new doctor in, getting the lease assigned if it's a third-party landlord, if the doctor owns the real estate, maybe doing a sale of the real estate, or doing a sale, or maybe a lease with an option to purchase. So we help with the real estate side of transitions and sales on a regular basis. And then the other side of things is, would they be more prone to stay in that role if they were more profitable? And that gets into like, look, do we need a better location? What if we got a landlord to pay for all of your build out and put you into a Class A location that was going to dramatically increase your internal referrals, your just drive-bys or walk-bys, et cetera? And what if you could have a much stronger practice because you upgrade locations or quality, et cetera? And there's ways of doing that. Like, there's ways of getting enough free rent to offset all the moving costs to where you pay for the moving company, but you don't pay rent for the first 4 or 5 months in exchange for that. What if you get a landlord to pay for an entire brand new space? So it's all Class A finishes, or most of your space. So it's Class A finishes, and it's a different environment for your patients or your staff. What if it's a better location? What if we could go out there and help you purchase commercial real estate? And after paying for the building and then building it out, what if every month you're paying down $3,000 or $4,000 per month of principal, and you were building another asset base that's going to actually be worth even more than your practice? And as you head towards retirement, whether that's 10 years or 40 years down the road, you're going to end up cashing out a multi-million-dollar real estate investment that you needed a space either way, whether you leased or purchased. And we've helped a lot of people do that. So I think the idea is, what do you think you want to do? And then are there some variables where if you were more educated and had the right people on your team, that you might actually change your mind as far as what you think you want to do for the next 10, 15, 20 years if you had the right strategy, the right people on your team, the right people in your corner, and you had the right information.
Well, I see it this way. I have thousands upon thousands of chiropractor friends, and a lot of them just get slammed at like the winter season of their careers, where they come to like that last, they've been practicing 15, 20, 30, 35 years, and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to, like, I meet patients all the time. I say the reason most people don't have good health is because number one, they don't know where to go. Number two, they don't know who to trust. Now that you have me as your advocate, I'm going to make sure that both those things are sorted out for you. You're going to know where to go and who to trust. Deal? And they're like, wow, that was really nice, because we're looking for trust.
Uh-huh.
And I think that at the end of people's careers, I have probably 5 right now that if I just said, hey, talk to Colin, you'd be able to like change their futures tremendously. Right now, they've been talking to me for the past month, and they've been like really like spinning their wheels at this one spot. But if they knew that they could have an off ramp and they could start working strategically and diligently for the next, say, 24 months, is that enough time for you to take somebody through this evolution to say, hey, this is your release point, bro. You get to go live your best life after these next 2 years, but put these next 2 years in, and we're going to create the runway and the off ramp for you to like exit velocity. Like you get to just like fly on, and you get to have the life of your dreams, and you can spend time with your family, or you can bring an associate in. Is that something that you could help execute as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's different types of transitions. There's this, hey, I'm just going to shut the lights off, hand back the keys, my lease is over, and I'm done. That to me is usually indicative of somebody who didn't have that great of a practice or who just doesn't care. I think for most people, you have a saleable asset, you have a transitionable asset to where, what can we do to make it more exciting or enticing for the next person coming in? And we have a lot of people that they only have maybe a couple years left to practice, and we'll help them go buy real estate. They've got enough money to make that happen. They can afford the payment, they can afford the process. And you say, well, why would you do that if you're going to sell your practice? Well, because you can write a 10-year lease with the person buying your practice, and that becomes an annuity now to, again, where every month for the next 10 years, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month goes to pay down that principal basis, and your net worth goes up every month. And so you can diversify in real estate. You can make your practice a lot more desirable for the next person. And a lot of times it's just a matter of, cosmetically, can we improve this thing? What if it was all new flooring, new paint, new ceiling tiles, new lights, new window treatments, new countertops? And you say, well, I don't want to spend money on that. Most landlords will cover those items, even in a lease renewal negotiation, if it means they're going to keep you as a tenant for the next 3, 5, or 10 years. And so there's a lot of things that people are just assuming why I don't want to pay for, or I don't have time to figure out. And the reality is like, well, you don't have to have the time to figure it out, because there's people that will help you do that, number one. Number two, the landlords will pay for it for you in most scenarios. And so people are just leaving, literally, they're leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table in the form of free rent allowances, renovation allowances, lower lease rates, et cetera. And it doesn't actually take any more time to hire an expert and get a really good deal than it does to fumble your way through it and sign off on terms that are pretty poor. Like that's
or do nothing.
Correct. Yep. Just stay on a month-to-month lease or a year-to-year lease and forfeit, again, tens of thousands of dollars of concessions due to you being indecisive about the future. I get it, but there's a better game plan in almost every transaction.
We call that the ostrich move. You put your head in the sand and you don't do anything. You just like let the bills pile up, and hopefully you can get some new patients. Third case scenario. I know we're coming up on the edge of our time, so let's go at this one pretty quickly. Say somebody has been a journeyman chiropractor. They've been an associate several years, and they're looking for what's next. Can you help them with the see, this is the big part. This is the psychological part of like getting somebody prepped to like get out of that spot that's not healthy for them anymore. Do you help build that reality for people too?
We do. Yeah. I mean, as a company right now, we have over probably 1,500 people that we're helping start their first practice as we speak, whether that's dental, dermatology, veterinary, et cetera. And so, yes, there's concepts like, again, What if you were to keep your associateship 2 days a week? That way, you know, you can pay your bills. That way, you know, in a worst case scenario, even if you have a slower startup, that you're still going to be able to take care of yourself or your family. And that's a matter of what's the right location. What if we get a landlord to pay for your entire build out, which a lot of times we can for chiropractic, not the case for dental or vet, but we can typically for chiropractic. What if we got enough free rent to offset your, you know, your first 4 or 5 months where no rent payments, so you have a chance to really ramp up from a profitable standpoint. And then, you know, it's just all of these things where we can say, look, we've been here and done this. Like, just like you would tell a patient, listen, trust me, I know you've never done this before, but this is what we're going to do to you. This is the procedure, or this is the game plan. And over the next couple of months, here's what you can expect. And then when it does happen that way, the patient has more confidence because they were told what's going to happen. They were telegraphed where it's going, and that it happens the way they said it's going to. It's the same thing for these real estate deals. Like, we've been alongside of literally thousands upon thousands of people that started their first practice. And a lot of them were nervous. A lot of them had questions that they didn't know the answers to. That's okay. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to be a little apprehensive, but doesn't mean you're not going to move forward just because you have those concerns.
Well, this is the psychology of the game. And this is, I think, where you and I together can win a lot of people to get them on the right path. I 100% believe that. I think our next conversation we should talk about the build out and what people get. So we should have a part 2 to this. What it looks like, where you get your equipment from, how we can make negotiations on that. I mean, I have a lot of people in my network. One of our sponsors is Imaging Services. He helps people do build outs for their x-ray units and helps them get their x-ray units and helps finance them and all those things too. So I think we should do a part 2 where we talk about what it looks like to open up shop and how to do that effectively and what kind of square footage you need, and you know, the basically creating somebody's dream scenario for them when they're going out there on their own from like day one.
Absolutely.
Today we're at the edge of our time, but is there anything that I didn't talk to you that you would like to mention to our audience today?
Yeah, I'll leave a placeholder, a teaser for the future. I'll say this: there is a very specific way that the most successful companies in the world negotiate their commercial real estate. And you're not going to find it Googling it online, but there's a very specific way that a Starbucks approaches every deal, or a Chipotle, or a Charles Schwab. You can pick your large company, whether you like them or not. They're experts in real estate, and they don't get played for the fool. They don't go into these deals and then just roll over. Like, they have a strategy and a posture, and it's not just bartering. It's not like, hey, whatever the prices I ask for less, and whatever the concessions I ask for more, and we just keep asking each other for less or more. There's a very specific strategy that we employ, and that the top brokers and the top companies in the world do. So we can save that for next time. But I would just say the bottom line is, if you don't know where to start, just get a good team. Start with good people, start with the right resources, and then they're going to educate you and get you as much information as you need for each stage of the process. And you don't need to eat that whole elephant at the very first serving, or the very first time you sit down. Like take it piece by piece, and the best people will help you navigate that process.
Well, I really appreciate your time today. And we cannot see our own blind spots. So we need somebody that can help see those for us. And that's sounds a lot like what you do at your company. So let's help some more people together. If people wanted to reach out to you or get some more resources from you, where should we send them to?
Best way to get a hold of us is our website, and it's carr.us. So CARR.us. And you can click in the upper right-hand corner of the nav bar. You can click to find an agent in your market. If you want to get a free lease evaluation or a lease versus purchase analysis, even if you've got 10 years left in your lease and you want to say, hey, how did I do on the lease I just signed yesterday? Our guys will take care of you at a high level. We do demographics, demographics and mapping information. If you want to know where my competitors are, if you want to know where my population base is coming from, my patients, like, we can do a lot of stuff for you. And so basically it's just a matter of starting the process, getting educated, figuring out what you want to do. Should you lease? Should you purchase? Should you stay? Should you move? That's all stuff that happens when you start a conversation.
Well, that's really cool. So carr.us, guys, click on the scroll bar, find an agent, and see what you guys can do with Colin and his team. This is episode 618 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I just really thankful for your time today, Colin. And if you guys are looking for the next space or the next transition or the on-ramp or off-ramp process of your career, reach out to his group. And I close out all the time by saying one thing, and I close out all the time saying this. You guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye for now. See you, Colin.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.